The real wealth creators are the public companies here. Companies like HDFC Bank. ESOP wealth exercised in 2024 is 5,000 crores.
Forget what VCs say. Look at the last 15 years and tell me one company that has gotten to scalable, profitable PMF in less than 10 years. My view is these numbers happen when there is massive liquidity chasing startups. Otherwise, they don't happen.
For every time you're issuing ESOPs below fair market value, first of all, that much lesser cash is hitting the bank of the company.
Somewhere we have gone horribly wrong in setting expectations as to how long it takes to 20x, 30x or 40x the share price.
If somebody has seen very closely or has experienced ESOP wealth creation, na, to wo बेचते नहीं है.
I think people get excited when they see numbers like 300 crores, 400 crores, 500 crores. But if my read here is all these companies are 5 billion plus or 10 billion plus in valuation.
Like we know a guy who has 150 crores of Nvidia stock in Nvidia Hyderabad. So you will make 10% chance you'll make 100 crores or 50% chance you'll make 50 crores.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 39 of the Asymmetric podcast. We have a very, very special guest today, Sandeep Jethwani, co-founder and CEO at Dezerv, one of the largest wealth management companies in the country. We had hosted Vaibhav, his co-founder, some time back. We realized that there are a bunch of insights that Dezerv has, and therefore we coerced Sandeep to come on board and do justice, though I don't think we have let Sandeep speak enough today because, as usual, the topic was so exciting that all of us ended up debating so much. I am expecting a comment already saying, Revant, please let the guest speak, but I'm sorry. It was, the topic was a little too close to heart. So I think 4 founders trying to build companies, trying to figure out how to incentivize the right people in the organization is something that you're going to always end up having a debate on. More debate than conversation, but at least it was a lot of fun for us. Hope you guys enjoy it as well. Ek baat bata, but if I look at every time there is a ESOP buyback in Bangalore, all of these
man.
gated communities may flat rates go up. That doesn't happen in Gurgaon. Yeah? Like when the Policy Bazaar IPO then Zomato IPO happened. Like Delhi, actually NCR has seen the highest number of companies go IPO in the last 3-4 years.
Bangalore is slightly different. उसमें ये है कि because of the infra, most of the gated communities near that particular company is where these people stay. So if you look at Swiggy, Flipkart, etc., it's more in the Bengaluru area. And as a result of it, whenever that happens in the Bengaluru area, there is a price increase that is very sharp. Like Flipkart is in Embassy Tech Village, ETV. तो वहां से अगर आप नॉर्थ बैंगलोर में जा रहे हो और घर ले रहे हो तो वो कुछ होगा नहीं, मतलब आप यू विल नॉट डू दैट. तो नॉर्थ बैंगलोर में इतना इम्पैक्ट नहीं आएगा, मे बी सेकंड थर्ड ऑर्डर इम्पैक्ट आएगा, डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट नहीं आता. डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट विल बी इन द बेलंदूर एरिया. So I think it's got to do also with the infra situation in Bangalore.
You cannot buy a house more than 10 crores in this thing, right? So does that make real estate less attractive from a tax standpoint?
दो चीजें. एक तो the capital gains tax rate has not affected ESOP because most people are exercising prior to sale. तो वो anyway perquisite tax में जा रहा है. तो people are not exercising पहले and then so therefore उसका इतना impact on ESOP holders नहीं हुआ. उसका impact founders पे बहुत आया. So founders buying, like we had a recent case where somebody sold a part of their company for 200 crores. In the, like going back 5 years, that money would have gone into real estate. Yeah. This time around, it's almost entirely come into financial assets. Yeah. Because, and also it's about these first generation wealth creators, right? ठीक है, मतलब घर अच्छा चाहिए, but beyond the point, मतलब हर एक को 100 करोड़ का घर में नहीं रहना है. Right?
So if I even did have that kind of money, and even if tax बच रहा होता, I would be really scared about the eggs in one basket, that too illiquid. 100 crore का घर बेचना भी बहुत is very difficult, यार. So when the markets are doing well and you have some access to fund managers who will do a good job with public markets, I would rather pay the tax and kind of get into different asset classes.
I think break-even point, even on the first 10 crores, is close to around 9-10%. If we can say that 10% मुझे return मिलेगा on the post-tax on the public market portfolio, then I'm better off putting that money into real estate after paying the tax.
I just think the ESOP thing is more broad-based in Bangalore than NCR. I may be wrong, but I would love to look at data. I have a hypothesis that I don't think NCR is as broad-based in wealth creation for employees as Bangalore has been. I think, like generally, I'm quite skeptical about the Bangalore startup ecosystem, but one thing is I think they are very democratic in terms of ESOP distribution as well as wealth creation.
So yeah, actually, the one thing this was new to me also. Like we were trying to estimate कि कितना ESOP wealth India में create हुआ है, right? And if you look at how much public companies have carved out in ESOPs, just the nifty top 100 companies have carved out nearly 3% of market cap, right? Which by itself is 8 lakh crores. 5 lakh crores is the collective wealth which is still sitting in Series B plus companies in ESOP. So that is about 14 lakh crores. And for context, like our mutual fund AUM is give or take 65, 70 lakh crores. PMS industry, entire the industry, like, we are a big part of, वो उसका 2.5x है, right? तो ये actually मुझे पता नहीं था पहले कि इतना major है, especially coming from these public companies.
Sandeep, just to check, this is wealth that is in the form of ESOPs and does not include ESOPs that have been sold and kind of converted into cash or whatever, right?
This is
Or company buybacks and all, वो सब नहीं है इसमें.
हाँ, तो उसमें वो थोड़ा over and above भी होगा. Some of it which has got converted to stock may now not reflect here because now that's ordinary equity और employee चला गया तो वो public shareholding में चला जाएगा.
Correct.
Right, so this is about 8 lakh crores, and actually, this 3% number, 3% of public companies, Nifty top 100 being in ESOPs, that number of 3% is also 4-5 years old. I would actually argue that with the likes of Zomato, etc., coming into this mix, this number is actually higher. Right, and when we look at companies like Mahindra, companies like even JSW, etc., allocating ESOP pools, these are companies historically which have never created ESOP pools, right? A steel company, for example, creating an ESOP pool. Like go back 5-10 years, ऐसा होता ही नहीं था, right? And now they are beginning to do that. All the conversation that we have has been around startups, right? But the real wealth creators are the public companies here.
And Sandeep, what would be any guesses or idea around this private company market cap कितना होगा Series B plus basis, let's say their last round valuation?
यार private companies में let's assume it's about 8 to 10%, तो इसका 10x ले लो.
Wow, so 10% है वो number.
10%. So private companies obviously have a larger allocation to ESOPs, and then as the company lists, the percentage allocation keeps shrinking.
Yeah.
Right. And if you look across different segments of companies, right? Interesting thing is financial services companies obviously are the biggest, and this is explainable to the extent that these are people-heavy businesses, right? So naturally, their allocation to ESOPs is higher than the others, right? So that is about 4%. Most of the others are in the range of 2% and then that then brings the average to 3.8% because financials ka weightage in Nifty 100 is high.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, and small and mid cap companies, naturally it's again higher because these are companies which are trying to attract talent before they become really big. Right. So for us, like the fact that public companies there is so much opportunity, I think this needs to be covered more. Most of the narrative, जब हम बात करते हैं ESOP की, buyback की, मतलब अगर कोई कंपनी 15-20 करोड़ का भी buyback कर रही है वो न्यूज हो जाती है. What we don't realize is that companies like HDFC Bank, ESOP wealth exercised in 2024 is 5,000 crores.
Oh, that's probably some total of rest of all, at least the top 4-5.
But this would be a little bit of legacy, right, Sandeep? Like people would have been with HDFC for 20 plus years and joined.
Yeah.
There's a lot of longevity in this. Like these numbers are quite unreal. If I see a HDFC, ICICI, Bajaj, Axis, like you would not expect this to ever make headline.
This is exercise number, right?
This is exercise.
I know. So, but यार तो market cap देखना $100 billion company valuation है, उसमें 3% ESOP pool ले ले तो $3 billion का तो ESOP pool है, जिसमें exercise हर साल कुछ ना कुछ होते जा रहा है. It's a great thing. I'm so amazed with these numbers. All I'm saying is, isn't the factor here compounding and longevity? Because most of these guys, I'm assuming Sandeep would be 20 years veterans in HDFC, would have got stock and would have just played the long game and waited for the company to go from 10 billion to 100 billion over the last 10 years. Is that a fair?
I think that is fair. The other thing, especially if you look at HDFC, there is a wide distribution of the number of people who have ESOPs, right? Actually, HDFC by itself is a fantastic case study, right? I think, and maybe there is. See, how did HDFC start? It was created by HDFC Limited as a sister entity, uh, and HDFC Limited had a history of employee ownership,
Yeah.
right? Of equity. That was one. Secondly, Aditya Puri, when he started, he got these people from Citibank,
Yeah.
right? And initially, their challenge was कि यार capital कम है, तो we have to be efficient. We can't spend cash, so we'll get people with ESOPs. So initially, to attract this mid-senior talent, they had to do it. Later on, this became a very strong retention tool for them when the company became large, right? So it's almost like flipped the use of ESOPs over a period of time. At one time, it was the way to attract talent. After a point, it was a way to retain talent, right?
Yeah.
If you mean that not only they were giving ESOPs for acquiring talent, but also let's say they would have vested in 4 or 5 years, and then they continued to give them newer ESOPs to retain.
Yeah, and in fact, there is this. I'll skip to this one interesting thing. There's this gentleman called Gurmeet Chadda. He tweeted about this part, right? कि यार मैं 2006 में HDFC मेरा कितना लॉस हो गया, तो he believes that he opportunity cost उसके लिए 15 करोड़ था when he left HDFC. And to be honest, he actually put this letter on social media कि देखो ये मैं ESOP grant letter छोड़ के आया था वहाँ पे, right? It's a beautiful case study of how in a late stage by 2006 HDFC was like a very large company, already well known, etc., right? तब उसने छोड़ा, उसको opportunity cost 15 crore लगा. And he's saying that since then I've been buying 10 HDFC bank shares every month, right, to make up for this thing. So HDFC by itself has been like absolutely fascinating. I think मतलब मेरे लिए तो ये, when we were doing research for asymmetric, this was like a eye opener, honestly.
No, this is fabulous. Yeah, if you go back to that list that you were showing, all the financial services firms, for me at least, if I see the top 5, all of them seem to be a function of large market cap and longevity. So again, I'm not saying that they are not democratic. I take all your points that I think me and Chirag started our careers together at Yes Bank, and I still remember it was fifth year of Yes Bank or something like that, Chirag. So we still used to get ESOPs, right? I mean, I think you were there for 4 or 5 years, so you did get the benefit of the upside. I left.
In fact,
11th
I
month.
took the lower salary, when I was joining in 2009 to take higher ESOPs.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, you did 2009 mein.
Yeah, both of us joined in 2009. So 55 rupees a share we had got, Tabi, before the split. Like from what I understand, the biggest wealth creators in the Yes Bank story also were people who joined, not only who joined early, but let's say people who joined in the 5th year or 8th year or 10th year. Like, as I said, we joined in the 5th year. Stock price went from 50 to 2000. So there is enough growth for people who join in the 5th year or 8th year or 10th year also, as long as you know that you have to still wait for 5 to 10 years to really see that compounding magic create disproportionate wealth.
Yeah, but इसमें Revant, one thing, I think maybe there's a learning for, let's say, founders like me, is that how do you sell the ESOP story, like, or the ESOP dream to people, right? Because, see, look, I think there are times, and we'll talk about this in just a bit, in terms of people feel disillusioned, people feel कि यार कुछ cash नहीं बन रहा, दूसरे लोग, मेरे friends are making more. Chirag is saying he actually took lesser cash, right, coming into the company. So what was Yes Bank doing that
They had success stories. See, A, it was listed. B, when we went in, already see, क्या होता है, हम MBA 2009 batch थे, right? So there were a couple of seniors there. So you would ask them, and seniors would be like, भाई, last year 20 रुपए का था, 50 रुपए का already हो गया, 2.5x. So I think the narratives always stay.
Yeah, and
I think it was.
would recommend this, that, please negotiate for more ESOPs. Don't go for like couple of lakhs of more salary.
And that culture stays up. And I think it's a function of you giving liquidity. Like this happens, by the way, at my firm now, where we give the same optionality. You can switch. I'm sure people reach out to others and ask, ki kya lag raha hai? Now, as long as the narrative is, we have never advertised our ESOP buybacks, but because we have done it, I know what is the narrative that's going to go up. So you have to first set the culture that this is real cash that you have to do with buybacks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Once you do it and people have tasted that this is real, then that culture will compound. No? And therefore, I actually think buybacks being done once in 3 years when a funding happens is actually still not as powerful as you maybe doing a smaller buyback, but doing it from the balance sheet or just making sure that there is a periodicity to it.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a second order effect. Me and Chirag discussed that maybe it becomes like expectation only. Har saal hone wala hai. But I think it's okay. It's still, because if you're not liquid, if you're not public as a company, people will always feel like, yaar, ye paper hai, kab aayega, kab aayega. If you keep doing a periodic buyback, then it will become part of culture. And I think we are all impatient here, Sandeep, in my view. Like if I go back three years back when we did the first buyback, I don't think there was so much excitement about ESOP.
Yeah.
2 years back when we did the second one, there was a little bit more. Now when we have done the third one, I don't need to sell the story. So I would actually flip the argument and say, if you need to sell the story, then like I would rather have actions speak than words. So you should not need to sell the story.
No, I think there are 2, 3 things here, right? One is that, let's say, at Dezerv, for example, we have 2 sets of people. One is people who come from financial services, especially from like the previous employer where I was at 361, where a lot of us created ESOP wealth, right? And secondly, we have a decent chunk of folks who are ex-UC, urban company, right? And they've also seen this. So for them, it's very easy and very attractive. Like they get it. The one reason you are in this ecosystem, in this company is because you want in there. So wahan pe I think this will help. And I think this is easily doable, right? Like and we are now seeing that happen. Like if you see this chart, every year, some bit or the other, barring 2020 where this was off year, COVID, etc. Throughout, like couple of 1,000 crores buybacks are happening in the ecosystem. So I think this has become the norm, and I think this will cause a ripple impact. People will come and ask for more ESOPs.
Revant is saying now, once you start to do, let's say he's in the third year, I'm also in the third year. ESOPs continue to become a scarce commodity then. Let's say, when you had joined, you could negotiate for a much larger one, but as companies scale and then they start to become liquid, people don't realize that it starts to become company can now afford to give cash, right? So people who actually now are demanding, only those people are only getting, and it starts to continue to become like a lesser available commodity, which was earlier day one. Like you were saying that in HDFC, they would want to optimize for capital and give, but it flips at certain point, right? So then, it becomes a little bit low. They come back and say, okay, we need more. But most people, end up realizing oh, we missed the bus again.
But my only question, Revant, to you is like, I agree with you. There should be an ability to buy back from the balance sheet itself. But one would, like, I think a board or a CEO would think about it from the standpoint of dividend, right? How many startups actually create profits enough to say I'll buy back? It's the easiest thing for a public company to do. Let's say if you're HDFC or Apple or whatever, boss, I'll buy back shares from either ESOPs or from public markets, and number of outstanding shares comes down, share price goes up, everyone's happy, right? But how many startups actually create the kind of cash to be able to buy back meaningfully? I think thoda wo journey abhi chalu ho raha hai where we are now generating profits. Hopefully now that buyback, because otherwise for us, at least for us, for example, at BSC, it was always linked to an external round, because otherwise we'd never had the ability to buy back or the cash to buy back.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree, Shantanu. Maybe again, anyway, people chastise me enough for having extreme views, but I'm just saying that if to Sandeep's point, it will always remain a myriad कि यार ये value है कि नहीं, unless there is consistent liquidity being generated. Without that, it's always going to be question mark from. So in fact, if you, Sandeep, go back to that chart that you were showing, which was the this, I actually see this as a problem. Look at the peaks and troughs. It's all liquidity driven.
Yeah.
2021 when there was crazy liquidity post ZERP, and then 22-23 when everyone went IPO, or 18, like this is all liquidity driven. My view is these numbers happen when there is massive liquidity chasing startups. Otherwise, they don't happen. And this is exactly why then employees may end up having a little bit of grouse कि यार हम 5 साल हो गए हैं, and we need, when will we get liquidity to this? So if it's too far away, and I'm sure, right? People, even if once in 5 years you get it, it's a good thing. I know founders are trying hard. Like Shantanu, to your point, कि यार मैं अगर पैसा ही नहीं बना रहा हूँ तो कैसे दूँ करके. But I actually like what Chirag has figured out, right? Like he will figure out some investor of his who wants to own more, and he'll say, "आप खरीद लो." So how do you build a culture of consistency around this? Is something that is on the founder, if you are, or the CEO, say Sandeep. Like that's my limited point.
Yeah, no, I agree. See, I think there are if you it's a good problem to have if you have more cash and you can continue doing these buybacks. If you can't do that, then so yeah, we have to explain it better to folks, right? But not every like in an ideal world, yes, I can do annual buybacks and people feel like this is almost equivalent to cash. But in the world where that is not necessarily an option, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this podcast don't have that luxury, right?
Sandeep, as a CEO, I think of it as a capital allocation problem. So if I have to burn $10 million this year, I have to burn 5 million on marketing, 4 million on technology, and 1 million on people. In the end, this is people cost, right? Like ESOP cost is people cost. Push comes to shove.
Yeah, no,
When we look at a yearly AOP, na, if you just say कि यार ये पैसा चाहिए मुझे buyback के लिए, you will force yourself to figure out. It's like when you are forced to think about कि यार इतना ही पैसे account में तो इसमें business figure out करो. वैसा can you put a constraint? Is what I'm just asking to consider. I'm not saying everybody can do it. I'm just saying that it's a frame of, it's just framing the problem differently, if I can put it that way.
Revant, मेरा दूसरी साइड का पॉइंट है कि let's say you are joining, like Sandeep is saying, there are a lot of UC guys who have seen success. अभी अगर 2 साल हुए, 3 साल हुए, or whatever, let's say 60-70% is vested, बेचना क्यों है? Let's say I know that some people will have need, okay, but if you are only selling, an asset just because you want to diversify or you want to park it in some other asset, this is probably the best IRR you're going to get.
Agree.
Right? So, बेचना क्यों? Right? I had the
I
same
agree.
question, when we were discussing कि यार, I did the maths and said कि यार ESOP ज़्यादा होने चाहिए when I was joining Yes Bank.
Yeah.
Right? So, बेचना ही क्यों है? Is it just like, are people operating just from fear? कि यार मेरे पास illiquid है, कुछ डाल देता हूँ. क्योंकि, when we compare and do the IRR maths, it comes out like कि ये तो no-brainer है यार.
I think, Chirag, if somebody has seen very closely or has experienced ESOP wealth creation, ना, तो वो बेचते नहीं है.
Yeah.
That's like your own experience decides how you will act in different
Yeah.
situations. N is equal to 1 in that context. Your worldview is shaped by.
Sandeep, then it's very incremental learning कि सारी गलतियां मैं ही करूंगा, सारी चीजें मैं ही करूंगा, तभी सीखूंगा.
अरे but वैसे ही होता है यार. मतलब
पैसों के मामले में होता है. I agree with Sandeep. पैसों के मामलों में तो people are a little.
Like we did की ट्रेडिंग भी हम खुद करेंगे, फिर हमें लगा नहीं ट्रेडिंग में हम तो नहीं बना सकते पैसे.
फिर हम बोलते हैं संदीप को पैसा दे दो, संदीप मैनेज करें.
So, nahin, in fact, actually, because either people have made money themselves, or when wealth management, we are in a fortunate situation, हम तो उनको सर्व करते हैं जिन्होंने ESOP के पैसा बनाया. So, in Dezerv's case, we are seeing a lot of team members seeing that there are clients who have made money via ESOPs. So, वो तो बेच नहीं रहे, right? But actually, we did this analysis, right? कि अगर for some reason these two people are called Smith and Keshav, right? So, उनको दोनों का 10 लाख का starting package है. एक ने कहा कि यार मेरे को 10 लाख I want to get in cash. And one guy says that I'll do 10 broken down into 6 lakhs cash and 4 lakhs ESOPs. And thereafter also I'll take 20% of my annual salary in ESOPs or annual take home in ESOPs, right? The outcomes are so vastly different, right? One guy ends up with 100 rupees of capital at the end of this period, 1 crore at the end of 9 years. And the other guy ends up with 370 rupees, right? So, Chirag, your point is valid. Here, this is the highest compounding asset, right?
And Sandeep, the interesting part is जिसने 100 बनाया ना, वो 100 खर्च भी दिया है.
हाँ.
तो इसके preserve भी हो गए.
हाँ, because ESOP is a forced saving also of sorts, right? मतलब अभी अगर Revant
like PPF, you save it for 15 years and then you get it, right? So same thing है.
See, एक तो क्या होता है कि इन्वेस्टमेंट पे मतलब कैश पे आपको टैक्स हैज अ इवन ऑफ अभी टैक्स है परक्विजिट्स, बट द फैक्ट इज दैट वो डिले हो रहा है ना. लाइक एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम यू आर नॉट पेइंग दैट मच कैश आउटगो टू द गवर्नमेंट. वो डिले हो रहा है, वो भी कंपाउंड हो रहा है एट 25%. सो देयर इज अ टू थिंग्स, वन इज 12 वर्सेस 25 एंड ऑल्सो द डिलेड इम्पैक्ट ऑफ दैट टैक्स विच इज ऑल्सो कंपाउंडिंग, राइट? तो दिस गैप इज इनसेन. इनफैक्ट ये जो पीरियड आता है बीच में जब आपका वेल्थ, कैश वेल्थ, बिकॉज एवरीवन टॉक्स अबाउट कैश वेल्थ, वो ESOP को तो पेपर वेल्थ है, वो तो होगा जब होगा. तो डेल्टा होता है उसको हमने जोन ऑफ फ्रस्ट्रेशन बोला, राइट? मतलब दिस इज द टाइम व्हेन योर फ्रेंड हु स्टार्टेड in the like Chirag's friend who took cash and
Yeah.
Chirag took ESOP plus cash. You know,
Yeah, his
like,
BMW is looking very. I'm like कि भाई इसकी BMW आ गई मेरी तो कुछ नहीं हुआ करके अभी तक.
बट इसमें संदीप बस इसमें मतलब एक्सपेक्टेड वैल्यू कैलकुलेट करें ESOP का इशू यही है ना, द रिस्क इज वेरी हाई.
yeah.
Even the one argument is that why would you invest in HDFC and ITC and all of these places where you don't control the outcomes at all? You might as well invest in a company where you control that, especially if you're in the senior rung of the company, you have access to inside information, plans, etc.
Yeah.
But even if you account for that, there is still a risk profile of ESOPs that is very different from, let's say, the Nifty index fund or whatever, right? So one is just, I think, Smith or Keshav, whoever is kind of the victim of the zone of frustration is probably has a higher risk profile versus someone else. But I think that's the only thing.
No, absolutely. And, I think we should not glamorize this beyond the point because, you have cases like, I mean, we have had Byju's and like
Yeah.
some good company like Dunzo tried, like for whatever reason, didn't work out. People who had ESOP well there got evaporated.
Yeah.
And then a couple of other companies. So I think that is there. I think that's the judgment call, right, at the end of it. Because this judgment creates the maximum delta for most people. Yeah, and actually, this part, जब हम लोग, when we interview candidates and so on, somebody says, yeah, I have got 50 lakhs worth of ESOPs. And then I ask them, yeah, 50 lakhs, what is 50 lakhs? Is it in the money component? Is this the fair market value multiplied by the number of units, etc.? And people will say, okay, wait, let me go back to that grant later, right?
Yeah.
Actually, this nuance और ये तो basic है, वो नहीं समझ में आता. And this is where there's a huge gap in understanding of ESOPs, right? तो इनफैक्ट हमने जो किया 800 लोगों से बात करी, उसमें से people who have 1 crore or more, 60% are saying I'm not feeling confident about my ESOP situation. I don't know exactly.
Wow.
कि मेरे पास
People who have more than 1 crore worth of ESOP, 60% are saying that.
I'm not feeling very confident about the kind of okay, if I ask somebody कि यार मेरे को अपना vesting schedule बता, या strike price क्या है, FMV क्या है, post vesting exercise period क्या है, वो नहीं पता, right? Because see, this is even today for large part seen like paper wealth. आएगा तो आएगा, it's optionality on top of salary.
But
नहीं,
don't they-
actually there are two things to it. Like I'll tell you in my team, I consider myself on one side of the spectrum when it comes to transparency of ESOP. मेरे reception में there is a board that tells the latest ESOP price, even if there's no transaction. Last month revenue times 12 multiplied by 4 divided by number, वो ऊपर नीचे होता रहता है, whatever it is, right? वो है my leadership team of 10-12 people who I'm assuming are in this journey because of wealth creation of ESOPs, and they are. उनको आप कभी भी पूछो ना कि आपके पास कितने ESOPs है, they will have a broad idea कि इतना है, 300 400 हो गया, 3000, whatever. They will not know the number. उसमें से कितना बेस्ट हुआ है, they don't know. लास्ट राउंड का प्राइस कितना है, they don't know. And so I used to earlier feel कि are you guys like, what is the point of this whole thing? If you are not aware of it, then why will it be a north star to creating wealth and so on? But I have realized over a period of time there is also an element of deep trust कि एक बार वो गणित कर लेते हैं, because most people are avoidant when it comes to thinking about money. Especially if the information they're going to get is against their life purpose and all that, right? Especially these kind of people are थोड़ा सा mission driven people. तो वो सोचते कि यार मैं फाउंडर पे ट्रस्ट करता हूँ कि नहीं, करता हूँ ना तो ठीक है, गणित वही कर लेगा. And I think Chirag, you may have experienced this at some level at BSc or whatever, even after you have left. But I have realized then the onus is on the founder always, because it's a good situation to have where you have people who trust, because you need to keep sharing with them, not because they don't understand it or because there is lack of transparency or because it's not important, but because they just feel कि when the day comes, then we are all going to be in it. तब तक मेरे को सोचना नहीं है इसके बारे में. तो it becomes like people also feel कि यार mission oriented people also feel like they are क्या बोलते हैं उसको, they are demeaning the mission if they kind of convert into a currency of rupees. I have seen that happen also with a lot of like very mission oriented people. They take it as a cap. आप तो सीधा like why would you equate my life's work to some a benign ESOP thing? Right? So it's a combination of a lot of human behavior that I have realized over a period of time.
Or growth, Shantanu, don't you think your ability to get only like it's impossible that like मेरे यहाँ पे तो I know there are some mission oriented people, but yeah, within 250 people now I'm pretty sure 80% would be ठीक है यार जॉब कर रहे हैं करके, right? So
correct, because that they belong to Chirag. What Chirag said कि after a point ना ESOP becomes scarce. So जो हमारे grants होते थे 4-5-6 साल पहले, अभी होते नहीं अभी now. Now we will
I know, but let's say we have a broad based the way to solve it is very simple. You have a portal the portal shows everything. In fact, we send a quarterly
Yeah,
payslip
yeah.
because our vesting is quarterly. Payslip
Oh,
आता है
absolutely.
कि इतने
Capital
तो
सब कुछ है.
हाँ तो फिर
No,
क्या दिक्कत है ना
Revant,
फिर
information is accessible, but उसका understanding नहीं है. That's the limited point I'm making. This is not a like, it's not very intuitive, right? कि यार अच्छा resign करने के बाद क्या होगा? Notice period में vesting होगा नहीं होगा? Can I retain? Like, I mean, most of the tech startup ecosystem में ये होता है कि after vesting, you can carry forward the ESOPs even if you don't stay with the company. That's not very common with public market companies, right?
पब्लिक में क्या होता है सेम और
Yeah,
You have to buy it, no?
you have to
Public can
you have to
exercise.
exercise stroke sell prior to your exit or within a certain period after your exit, which is typically between 60 to 90 days or something like that.
and
Revant,
the
basically,
strike
you have
price
to
mostly
exercise. So you have to give the exercise price equivalent.
You have to give the exercise price equivalent plus you have to pay the perquisite tax. Then the stock comes to your DP and then you can sell it.
and tell
So
me
there
this
is-
like my understanding is that most public companies except for the rare ones which are now tech the internet first companies like an Eternal or a Swiggy which I understand are still allocating at face value strike price. Most public market companies allocate at fair market value or average of last quarter and stuff like that.
हाँ मतलब उसमें maybe there is some discount 30%, 50% in some cases, but very close to fair market. Like the 10 rupee or the face value exercise price is not common at all. People
I'll
like
tell you a input from just last week board meeting. First slide I was showing MIS adjusted EBITDA. The ask was VSS has said there is nothing called adjusted EBITDA. Please show real EBITDA. I'm like, ठीक है, the biggest cost is ESOP cost.
correct.
And so I'm now changing the internal reporting also. We have a monthly internal management review. And boss, I just realized it's so powerful because I kept hearing Shantanu saying this for the last 3 to 4 months, बार बार. I think last episode में भी Shantanu ने बोला कि किसी का CM2 टारगेट है, किसी का EBITDA टारगेट है. And जिसका EBITDA टारगेट है वो पीपल ऐड नहीं करेगा. वो बोलेगा नहीं इंटर्न से काम करा लो. Whereas जिसका CM2 टारगेट है वो मेरे को आदमी चाहिए करके. Right?
Yeah.
I am just realizing that such an eye opener for everyone to see how big that cost is.
Yeah.
And we see it regularly because at least audit we sign, right? End of the year. People don't see, but if you apportion it, it's right now for us 3% of revenue and it just inflates your employee cost. Like I remember Chirag asking me beginning of the year, what is your yearly employee cost? And I was like, bahut badhiya, it's only percent and we are doing a great job. It's not Chirag, sorry, I forgot because you have to add the ESOP cost. No?
Yeah.
And it's
The
a
reason why it
massive
doesn't
cost.
feel a lot, no, but the reason it doesn't feel like a lot is there's not cash outflow.
Yeah.
नहीं, but Shantanu आएगा वो outflow.
Many people have a higher.
हाँ यार, actually is what you
It's
show.
a liability.
It's a तो ये जैसे अभी if you look at we put together this slide that it's not free, right? Because
Yeah.
one view of the world is यार ये तो किसको फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है यार, कंपनी के ट्रेजरी में फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा, तो what is the problem, right? But every time you are issuing ESOPs below fair market value, first of all, that much lesser cash is hitting the bank of the company.
Yes.
P&L impact to Revant is fine, but like even from a treasury perspective, one way to say it is that look, I issued.
Yeah, Sandeep, ये आपको बहुत ही plainly समझाना चाहिए. People don't get.
This is what an excellent point is. You have to double click on this a little bit.
So let's say company started today at seed, say valued at 100 crores. I'm making it easy, and let's say on day one I issue 5% of the company as ESOPs, right? And let's say it's issued to a certain set of people who are in the company at that point of time. Now, what does that mean? That means that I have raised 5 crore less cash in the company at that point of time, right? Now, as a startup, as a loss-making company, there's a lot you can do with 5 crores, right? You're not getting this money in the company because you're issuing ESOPs for a company valued at 100 crores at a zero value, right? So that is the capital cost of ESOPs, right? PNL to theek hai. PNL is like at that stage, I'm not going to explain wo Black and Scholes model and how option pricing is done to arrive at the PNL hit, etc. But at the very least, ये 5 crore kam aaya company, right? This, I think everyone needs to internalize. And there's a reason why the founder is getting this 5 crores less in the company, because the value of that human capital that you get because of that 5 crores is much, much more than that, hopefully. Right? So that's the first point. The second point is now the other shareholders have got diluted to the extent of this 5% issuance, right? They own lesser of the company now. Earlier, before the issuance, let's say they were owning 100% of the company. Now they are owning 95% of the company. So they have lesser stake in the future of the company, right? And naturally, therefore, every ESOP issuance is a matter which has to be taken to the major shareholders of the company, right? It has to be approved. In a listed company, the ESOP policy has to be approved by the public shareholders also, right? Why is this happening? Because there is that is hitting their economic interest in the company. So I think this part, given that most of us don't understand our own ESOP holding, in the sense if I have a ESOP owner as an employee, this part is not appreciated at all. The fact that it is a cost to the company. And I think maybe even explaining this at the point of giving ESOPs might be helpful, I feel.
That's such a valuable point because frankly, like this is so well said, right? Because every time someone like we're having a discussion on ESOPs, and it's very strange sometimes. So there are sometimes people who follow a lot of influencers who probably watch this podcast, look at Smith and Keshav's example of saying, "Mera hounga." Sida, they go from 10 lakh salary to financial independence very quickly at the age of 24, 25 because they feel ki ESOPs is like, look at the words we are all using, right? Wealth generation, generational wealth, you'll show a big 25% compounding. Like everyone knows the words, but no one understands that someone is actually paying for this. Like the fact that you are going to get 1 crore of salary means someone is literally making a 1 crore transfer. So that's what people say, right? When you're going to make a transfer of 1 crore, the real way to make it sync is to make it happen through an HDFC bank account or through a bank account. The realest way to make it sync is to do it through cash, like physical paper cash. Is when you realize how much 1 crore rupees actually is, right? But people don't realize it. And I think one mental model that maybe Sandeep you could talk about is, and Revant and I have discussed this multiple times, is any employee's net net holding is share price into number of shares. Okay. And number of shares is where dilutive impact starts happening, where people start optimizing for कि मेरा share price तो ठीक है in the ether somewhere, number of shares मेरे को ज्यादा चाहिए. While the actual fundamental incentive model is to say, boss, number of shares should be considered constant or will grow at Hindu rate of growth. Share price is where the compounding needs to happen. Where as a founder or CEO, I can also go to the board and say, boss, अगर मेरा 100 से 200 रुपए का तो आप 180 तक का ले लो, 20 रुपए let me take back to the employees. That discussion is very easy for a founder to have with their board. You share price elevation में share a little bit. As opposed to saying number of shares जितना है उसमें से share, because that always feels like dole out without a return attached to it. So that entire mental model is super critical for employees also to understand.
Yeah, and I think isme the other point is like also the stage of the company at which you're coming in. The IRR from there on can look very different also, right? The amount of money people can make can be very different. Like, the fact we are told in wealth management that you can't eat IRR. Like you can't take IRR home. You can take cash home, right? So, अभी जैसे if you start,
Leave IRR on the table, you can't take it off.
it's only a number on a MIS, right? So उसमें ये होता है कि अगर let's say at startup stage, early stage, somebody got 20 lakhs worth of ESOPs, उसको multi-bagger return आ गया 20x because the IRR was high, the company grew very rapidly from there, right? But there are people who can get 2 crores, make just 5x and make significantly more wealth, right? At a later stage of company. And, we discussed it on the WhatsApp chat. I'll tee up those numbers also in just a bit, that how much wealth can be created in the later stage of company also. Like, actually, I would say that the quantum of wealth created in later stage is much more than the quantum of wealth created in the early stage, right? So, वो missionaries, mercenaries हो जाता है. In the early stage, you have missionaries coming. In the later stage, it is okay to have people coming in for creating wealth, right?
Yeah.
I think the slight nuance here is, Sandeep, I think the missionaries also make, but what happens is I think the mental model for them has to change. I really liked what Shantanu said. I think it's well articulated. That the multiplication then has to happen on the share price. So imagine the startup, one example that you're using here, right? The lady who went from 20 lakhs to 4 crores. Let's say that is not the end stage. Going back to your first example of HDFC, the stock has 10x in the last 20 years. आप ये सोचो ये 4x, ये जो 4 crore है, अगर ये 3x होगा यहाँ से तो 12 crore हो जाएगा वो. I think the problem I see is people don't, like everyone knows that compounding is the eighth wonder in the world. Nobody wants to factor in the time period that is required for compounding. वो 8th wonder in the world में time चाहिए ना.
Yeah.
आप अगर 3 साल और रुक जाओ, ये 4 करोड़ 3x हो जाएगा. वो लोग भूल जाते हैं. And I know you have a chart on vesting period and all. I actually believe that somewhere we have gone horribly wrong in setting expectations as to how long it takes to 20x, 30x or 40x the share price. If you have, let's say, X, let's put a crore number, it sounds nice, right? If you have X crore worth of stock options today, if we multiply the company 3x from here, you will make 3x crores, right? Going back to Shantanu's example, at some point of time, it becomes the fiduciary responsibility to multiply the share price and not get more shares. But people don't see it that way because somewhere, and maybe you can queue up that chart where this was, I think PJ had sent this chart out, right? That what is good, bad, and ugly in terms of ESOP. I actually completely disagree with this chart because I think all of this, see, we are inspired by Silicon Valley. Our VC funds said we will be a 8+2 10-year fund, and that has gone horribly wrong because we are a 15-year fund cycle market. Every VC fund has taken 15 years to return capital. Why? Because we say 10 साल लगते हैं कंपनी बनने के लिए. Like this is the thing I have heard for the last 16 years. I have been in this industry. 10 साल लगती है कंपनी बनने के लिए. तो मेरा एक बहुत ऑब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चन है. अगर 10 साल लगते हैं कंपनी बनने के लिए तो फाउंडर वेस्टिंग 4 साल क्यों है? And by the way, I'll ask this to VCs. And ESOP vesting 4 साल क्यों है?
Frankly feel that I think it is whenever someone tries to negotiate vesting period with me, I've always told people that if there is liquidity event, we will if you are in the company and there's a liquidity event, we will accelerate vest all stock if the company gets sold, right? So now if you're in the company, there's no problem. Now why would you want to negotiate a vesting period? Whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, I don't understand this. I never understood why vesting period should be a negotiation point.
Yeah, Shantanu,
market practice, no, Shantanu?
I'm just not
I know,
market
I'm
standard.
saying the market practice.
Yeah, let me just explain it from a team members or employees perspective, right? Imagine, like, for whatever reason, let's say your vesting period is 6 years, and the third year you feel that this is not the place I want to spend the better part of my working career, right? Now what plays in the mind, right? What plays in the mind is I have 3 more years of vesting. Should I just stay on here? And because the opportunity cost for me to leave is very high at that point of time, right? And now you have team members then in the system who are not aligned with the mission. So what would you, like, as a founder, like, and this is more for debate rather than like me, it's a dilemma rather. Here, as a founder, what do you do? If you have it too long, you will have a situation where a lot of people in the company may not be people you want to have in the company, and you will find out late.
If you isn't someone coasting along for vesting like easy to like figure out?
Yeah,
Coasting is the first red flag, na?
तो इसका term है ना, Shantanu. There's a Bangalore term for this: rest and west. It is an actual term.
Therefore, thinking aloud, should we have like a different ESOP policy at different stage of the or seniority of the team member?
100%.
देखो नहीं लगता.
मैं तो इतना मेरे को तो अभी यार वही Sandeep, have you heard that one saying? Everyone's liberal until the bill comes. So this is great. This is great until adjusted EBITDA doesn't stop hurting you and so on, right? I just feel like now I used to be very proud of the fact that 10% of our company's ESOPs, ESOP pool is undiluted. We always keep adding every time it gets diluted, and strike price is only 10 rupees, and vesting is infinite. We have an infinite hold period, by the way. We are also very good narrative builders, na? We are proud. We are very proud that our alumni are proud shareholders of the company. But frankly, I feel like at some point, that strike price of 10 rupees for someone who's joining at the 8th year of the journey is actually free money. अगर अभी आज का शेयर प्राइस 25,000 रुपीज है, कोई बंदा 10 रुपए से 25,000 तक खींच के आया उसको, और तुम अभी आज ज्वाइन कर रहे हो for the 25,000 to 75,000 journey, why would you strike the price for him also at 10 rupees? It makes no sense. Frankly, it really doesn't make sense to have a 10 rupees strike price. You can say 30% discount to the value of at which you joined, or 50%, जो भी करना है करो. But at least people should then. So some of these things I have started questioning my own philosophy. Like you're right, there's an open to debate thing, and maybe it's a journey of the founder also. कि अभी like at some point you're like, boss, at some point you have to start realizing that even alumni now, for example, there is someone who's left the company in 2018. I can't force them to sell vested ESOPs.
Hey, in the end, your fiduciary responsibility is to the shareholders of the company, right? So you need to, like, it's good to be employee friendly, but in the end, this is a balance that needs to be maintained. And it's not about, see, if you are a Lala owning 100% of your company and said, okay, I'll only have ESOP for allocation, that's great. But at some point of time, and that's why once it starts going towards public, like there was a massive pushback on Eternal's ESOP new grant, and most mutual fund guys voted against it, saying, boss, ye ki kya kar rahe ho karke tum? But the good part was, I think there were enough private shareholders at that point of time who said, ki nahi yaar, we'll vote for this. And but now, as it's become majority, I think DII owned, correct me if I'm wrong, Sandeep, I think Dipinder plus DII is now majority ownership. So getting a approval now for a 10 rupees strike price would be very hard. So I think Dipinder smartly got a larger pool created then, so that at least agle 4-5 saal nikal jayenge karke. But increasingly shareholders are very, very clear that yaar, we've invested money in this business to see IRRs and share price go up. And as you said, like there has to be a balance between enthusiasm by the CEO to say I will share wealth versus enthusiasm to also increase share price. And going back to your example, right, ki that balance maintaining ke liye you need to have very clearly defined objective frameworks.
What I'm taking away is that at every stage of company and even at every stage at seniority levels, ESOP policies may need to change.
Yeah.
I think what is relevant for X is not relevant for Y, and the narrative building, like you said, वो हो जाता है यार कि मतलब everyone swims with the tide कि यार this is the best way of doing it, and I think उसके there are enough challenges around that. यार in fact
एक बात आप बताओ कि Sandeep mentioned a word financial independence. इंडिया में what do you think financial independence कितने अमाउंट पे हो जाती है? 60 lakh rupees a year. Sandeep will get you 10% easily. मतलब ESOP 2 million के भी बेचोगे, 15 crore के भी बेचोगे, टैक्स रेट काट के 10 crore आएगा, 10 lakh रुपए महीना आता है यार. But I think the expectations, at least what I hear, is 50 crores, 70 crores. I don't know, but that's not financial independence. Maybe Shantanu should give a new word to it. It's not independence. It's like Uncle Scrooge wala drooling into the dollars.
I think क्या हो गया ना अभी, I think a lot of people have this worldview that see, I also feel the world has become very.
Shantanu, correct me if I am wrong. कि India में living a good life at 10 lakh rupees a month is not a good life.
Yeah, but I'll push back. Yeah, see the point is that making money is a good thing. Wala funda hai. कि the more people are ambitious, I think it's a fantastic thing, right? अब वो नहीं satisfy हो रहा है, and if he's a super talented person and it's super critical for the business, then we have to make it work, right? Like
totally agree, Sandeep, but then it has to be linked to share price. What you're saying?
हाँ,
then it can't be कि मुझे 200 crore बनाने हैं, आप देख लो कैसे.
Like if somebody says कि Sandeep, I will do everything and I have the capability, मुझे 100 crore रुपया बनाना है. Like it's a great thing, right? Like what's wrong with it?
I agree with you.
Yeah. Sandeep, I think the limited point.
Sorry,
the limited point he's making is it can't happen that way. If you put just take the number that you said, right, 100 crore. I think you should, if for that number, what Chirag, maybe you should correct me if I'm going wrong, Chirag. His ask is, then you should have a plan as to ये 100 कैसे बनेगा. Let's take product or engineering as an example, right? कि अच्छा 5-year roadmap बता दो Sandeep as CEO. Now I will come and give you a product roadmap that will make this vision happen, and I will deliver these metrics, etc., etc. If I don't deliver these metrics, we will not become a valuable company. Then I will not get the ESOP. That is a very fair conversation.
If that plan comes, no CEO can refuse.
आप थोड़ी मना करोगे संदीप, आप बोलोगे ले जाए पैसा.
चाहते हो कि कोई आके बोल दे ये.
नहीं यार, so एक reference point बना दे. Most of us, like unfortunately, are not building OpenAI, right? So there is some public business model which is benchmarking to and saying that कि यार अगर ये company ये multiples पे trade करता है, तो अगर हम वहां पहुंचेंगे तो we will also trade at that multiple. So working backwards, it's very possible for a lot of companies to figure out कि यार ये मेरा अगर मेरे को 1 billion का market cap पे जाना है, तो this is what I have to deliver. These are the two metrics, like either top line revenue and operating margin, like something like that will be easy to derive, right? Now what I am seeing is that some really smart folks are coming with those numbers. कि यार तो अगर हम इतना profit करेंगे with this margin profile, तो हमको ये multiple मिलेगा. And therefore, we will be valued at this. Now, let's work towards that, right? And I think and if somebody comes with that, like they identify the problem, they say, I will handle this part of the problem. मुझे इतना पैसा बनाना है working backwards at different stages of company. I want to get this much equity. I think that's a brilliant conversation to
Yeah,
have.
yeah. If you get the
But
plan
it's a
and the
very hard
clarity,
thing to do. No, but it's very hard to do because the role of the founder then becomes to make sure that all these expectations are mutually exclusive. Because in my world view, for example, रेवंत आपके वर्ल्ड व्यू में आपको लिटिल जॉयस का आदमी आके बोलेगा कि मैं इतना प्रॉफिट करूंगा तो मेरे को इस मल्टीपल पे इतना चाहिए, और आपका ऑफलाइन सेल्स वाला आके बोलेगा, नाउ देयर इज अ ओवरलैप देयर ना, ऑफलाइन सेल्स एंड लिटिल जॉयस का देयर ओवरलैप वेयर यू हैव टू गिव बोथ. So our job is to make sure that all and frankly, it's a great bar to have. If we can make all these expectations mutually exclusive and be consistent with it, then I think it's an outstanding bar for us to beat. But it's really, really hard to do that.
but I'll tell you what, Shantanu, it's okay. In my experience, it's okay to not be mutually exclusive because
Yeah.
I don't think any team wins alone. Like what I am at least pushing in my org is, guys, we'll either win together or we'll lose together. So I am actually okay if they are not mutually exclusive, but as long as they understand that the path that they are charting needs 4 other people, right? And if they are able to identify कि यार मेरे को इन 4 लोगों की बहुत help लगेगी to get this number done, so that my expectation is met, they will go and collaborate and figure it out, and at least together, see, that is the beauty of ESOP, right?
Yeah.
I would rather tell everybody कि भाई अगर ये नंबर होगा ना तो सब बहुत पैसा कमाएंगे करके. आप अगर आप साथ में फिगर आउट कर सकते हो तो इट्स अ गुड ऑब्जेक्टिव टू कीप. इट्स ओके, आई नो दैट the cost to the company is higher, but yeah, tell me this, in the startup industry where probabilities of success at every stage are so minuscule, how many companies are getting to like Sandeep put that number out, let's take 10,000 crore market cap as an outcome. Yeah, in the last 15 years kitni companies bani hai? So I would rather take the probability of that going higher, even if it costs the company a little bit more by giving
That's
shared
a good point.
non-mutually.
मैं कह रहा हूँ
I think it's
आपके पास
okay.
अगर 2 बंदे हैं ना तो बहुत बढ़िया पोजीशन में हो आप.
हाँ, मैं तो उल्टा चाहूंगा कि 4-5 बंदे हो तो ठीक है, कॉस्ट बढ़ेगी, बट प्रोबेबिलिटी गोस अप ना.
या
No, fully agree. मैं तो अलग ही, like I am in a zone where I have started. I get disappointed when the leadership team doesn't get upset about ESOP pool creation. मैं तो ये बोलता हूँ लोगों को कि तुमको गुस्सा क्यों नहीं होता यार कि तुम डाइल्यूट हो गए हो कंपनी में. यू आर नाउ सीरियस शेयर होल्डर इन द कंपनी यार.
यार
There
वो
are people
बहुत
with
हार्ड
upwards
है
of 1%
कैलकुलेट
यार.
करना. आई टेल यू,
क्यों भाई
मैंने आई टेल यू,
इतना गणित करके आते हैं, प्लान बना के आएंगे, ये करके आएंगे, वो करके आएंगे, ये नहीं पता कि डाइल्यूट हो रहा
नहीं
है.
नहीं नहीं
ब्रो
आई टेल यू,
फाइनेंस वाले को समझ में आता है, बाकी लोगों को लगता है 5%
बहुत हार्ड है यार ये. सो आई टेल यू, नाउ दैट वी हैव अ ESOP पोर्टल ना where people see value of their shares, I think it's good and clear, and I think it's okay. It's our job. Like for example, I now explain कि देखो, have you realized that you guys don't get diluted because you look at price and you want the price to keep going up. So whenever there is a external raise, or like just going back to Sandeep's example, right? That when you create an additional pool, number of shares goes up, share price comes down. And everybody ends up giving more to the employees because in the end that number has to keep going higher and higher, right? So I think it is on the founders, CEOs, whatever it is, to keep saying that देखो end में everybody else is getting diluted, but you don't, because you are looking at that number and that number has to keep going up. But it's okay. I think broadly net, my view is if you get the clarity and the plan, I think the biggest mistake everyone makes is not give clear expectation कि whether it is a 3-year vesting, 4-year vesting, 5-year vesting. See, performance based ESOP is the best. ये number है, अगर ये meet हुआ तो ESOP मिलेगा, वरना नहीं मिलेगा. I actually really love performance based ESOPs. But even in a time linked ESOP, the fact that you are spending this time, this is a cost to the company, and what the company expects out of you has to be very clear. And that's the onus on the HR or the founder or the CEO or whatever it is, right? Employees cannot be faulted if the expectation of them is not made clear. Having very clear objective discussions, numeric, will help more and more long term, because I don't think we can expect there are enough things happening here in everybody's
Yeah,
life.
ये seed series A पे नहीं कर सकते because at that time you're still figuring out whether the company has a right to exist or not. Like,
Yeah, this is all post
Yeah.
series A, series B.
and so the point that again कि यार at different stages of company, maybe our narrative again needs to evolve, right? Where we say कि यार अच्छा अभी if you move this number from X to Y,
Yeah,
it will move the share price Y to Z. Like so,
yeah.
and therefore then you'll get rewarded. I don't think I'm doing a great job of it, and maybe that's one area I have to work on.
Yeah, considering it's a simple, I think Chirag का business will be काफी complex है to directly equate valuation or value to ये. Like even for you, it's considering it's a financial services business, AUM led, there is a certain fee structure, which you are plus minus 10-20% of where the market would be. I mean, shouldn't be that complicated. I'm not saying that you should do a better job, but
it's not complicated. It's just that at this stage, अब वो करना जरूरी है. Like
बहुत
especially
जरूरी
at the senior levels, right?
yeah,
One set of people who, if you tell them this, they'll figure out what the problems are to solve. The
yeah,
other set of people is where you say, this is the problem. If you solve this, then this.
yeah,
And I think just identifying who is who and
yeah,
aligning
yeah.
that.
वो बोलते हैं ना how to what to who पे पहले हम how करते थे
That's a lot.
problem solve करते थे
Yeah.
फिर हमने बोला what problem will solve अब हम बोल रहे हैं who will solve
ये बताओ हाँ ये सबसे बढ़िया चार्ट लगा
अच्छा,
मेरे को
हाँ,
कि
ये Revant, I'm glad you pushed for this because ये तो मेरे लिए भी eye opener था among many other things in this thing. So this is the years of experience. So just to like look at this chart, how much value did these individuals make at the point of IPO, and at the point of IPO, how much time had they spent at the company?
at the company
At the company. So if you look at Swiggy,
years of experience at that particular company
so Swiggy was around for let's say 10 years prior to
Yeah.
IPO.
IPO.
Somebody who's joined 4 years into the journey also made 171 crore.
But
Somebody
10 billion valuation. What was the year? I like the last column that we should index every startup to a 10,000 crore valuation. And because see, कोई startup 10 billion पे पहुंचेगा आज eternal at 30 billion people will say देखो यार 1000 crore बनाए, but it's a function of valuation. Again, go back to the HDFC example, right? 100 billion पे people will make a different amount of money. But just knowing, what I really like is the last column. That going back to your point, Chirag, financial freedom being achieved at a 10,000 crore valuation is still only by the top 10, 15, 20 people. It's not as broad-based. And by the way, from my understanding, Swiggy is the epitome of like the top decile of wealth creators in the country. Like at least I have heard from multiple people that very, very solid, very democratic ESOP process, very lot of wealth creation across and stuff like that. But the amounts are not like they seem quite reasonable for a
data is
10,000
not-
crore valuation. Right?
This data is not exhaustive. So I should qualify that. कि ऐसा नहीं है कि there are not other people who are making more than 10 crores. अगर वो कीमैन और ये सब नहीं क्लासिफाई होते हैं तो वो वहाँ डेटा नहीं आएगा.
My one concession on this chart is actually I'm surprised by Nykaa. Of all the word on the street that they are a Lala company, that the
Yeah.
family holidays in London for two months in a year, the children are now being kind of groomed for the business. Family takes part in every decision end to end. For them to distribute this kind of wealth is actually spectacular. Also, like there's no real funding. It's Sanjay and Falguni who kind of funded the business. So it's literally a very, very promoter driven company. For them to do this is quite spectacular actually.
I like the header that life-changing ESOP is not just for the earliest joiners, because there are people who have spent 10 years who have made money and people who have joined 2 years before also, and it's okay because they have come for a very specific mercenary role, as you call it, versus the missionary folks who joined in early, and everybody makes money. But for me, the biggest eye-opening thing is still the last column. I can't.
Yeah, dude, like Eternal is crazy, yeah?
Yeah, Eternal is crazy.
Okay, let's take two of the best examples here. You are hiring a CFO tomorrow, right? CFO Akshant Goyal joined in 2018. The guy made 18 crores at a 10,000 crore valuation. Go back to the Swiggy example. You're hiring a CFO, Rahul Bothra joined in 2017. In 7 years made 30 crores at a 10,000 crore. So if a CFO has to join tomorrow to you, and you will say, यार हाँ 5 से 7 साल में हम 10,000 crore का valuation पहुंच जाएंगे. Let's say hypothetically, I know you'll get there sooner, but hypothetically, let's say you give a 5 to 7 year time frame. The guy says, I need to make 100 crores at that valuation.
Yeah.
Doesn't that math seem off to you?
No. First of all, like if he's asking for 100 crores, then that's a separate discussion for that role and individual, right? But let's say he says कि मुझे 25 crore बनाना है, right?
Which is fine. There is a...
You say कि ये metrics होंगे company के, तो you will get there. Now, in
that's
this
what I'm
case,
saying.
That and more
10,000 crore पे, 10,000 crore पे, I think going back to, I'm just taking on Shantanu's point. I think the problem is we don't look at objective data of, I think people get excited when they see numbers like 300 crores, 400 crores, 500 crores. But my read here is all these companies are 5 billion plus or 10 billion plus in valuation. And maybe that indexing is not happening. Again, going back, कि भाई share price multiply हुआ है. आप $1 billion कंपनी में उतना पैसा बना ही नहीं पाओगे.
Yeah.
नहीं क्या?
Yeah, absolutely. And
unless you help the company get to $10 billion.
And see, like ये survivorship bias है ना यहाँ पे. We are looking at $10 billion companies or close to that number, right? So we are talking about that. if you just
there will be some public company ना which is smaller. इसमें है list में कुछ
इसमें नहीं है but
है ना ये
हाँ
IPO valuation $1 billion है ना कार ट्रेड
कार ट्रेड का लेते हैं ठीक है अभी कार ट्रेड इज नॉट like disproportionate outcomes like I'd argue for most people right somebody who spent 17 years at the company made 24 crore rupees
yeah but I like the fact that CFO again I think आपके CFO को तो अच्छा इंडेक्स मिल गया है any CFO looking to join Dezerv look at this list 25 से 35 करोड़ बनने चाहिए आपके
please call Revant and the thing is that we are not operating in isolation right these are folks the great talented folks are also talking to other founders
Yeah.
if somebody can offer them that vision that for your contributions you can make 100 crores this is an outcome that will be 100 crores you will have that kind of ownership so that is our competitive space right for talent
I think selling is good but overselling and not being pragmatic is something that
Dangerous.
people should be very
in startups and here also outcome multiplied by probability is the probabilistic outcome I think what we have to talk about is the probability multiplier कि यार what is the chance that you will make so you will make 10% chance you will make 100 crores or 50% chance you will make 50 crores right so I think that's the conversation to have कि यार probability क्या है I'm going to send you a manuscript of the book I need your comments on this book we put together on ESOPs it's called The Millionaire Employee comes out in September
करो सेट एक्सपेक्टेशन अभी आप मेरी टीम आके बोलेगी भाई $1 million तो भाई नहीं बन रहा है एक तो डॉलर वैसे ही बढ़ रहा है
नहीं रुपी स्ट्रेंथन हो जाएगा डोंट वरी so I'll send this but yeah thanks man
No, Sandeep, one thing I love, which is a probabilistic outcome, like people call it expected value, right? So I was having this discussion once, कि expected value क्या है? Probability multiplied by outcome. So then this is my expectation. I said, expectation and expected value are two very different things. The day those two match is when you and I are on the same page. Because expected value is such a difficult, because it's all about probabilistic outcomes. But I hope that as companies become bigger, the more, also the thing is this, the more predictable the outcome, the less the volatility of the outcome. The less the volatility, the less the best case scenario. And that's my question. Who is the largest ESOP wealth creator in India? Outside the 6-7 Infosys CEOs, maybe is it Nagori? Would it be Ankit Nagori? Would that be the right benchmark to have?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Flipkart is by far the amount of wealth created is intense. Actually, uska na impact I think is in the further second order wealth creation of Flipkart, right?
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
The same founders went and founded other companies, right? Who then created wealth for themselves and their team members. Right? I think this is the most fascinating. I think in Silicon Valley में शायद बहुत होंगे ऐसे examples.
Yeah.
Flipkart that happened, and I think this for me again mind-blowing statistic that 32,000 jobs were created. Yeah, forget wealth creation etc. 32,000 homes are being run off of the wealth creation that happened on Flipkart. I think that's just incredible.
That's insane. Actually, I agree with you. This is very much the Indian PayPal.
Yeah,
very much the Indian PayPal.
Yeah.
And Spinny also, is it? Wow, interesting. Grow, Spinny,
we couldn't capture a lot. ये तो we found out कि यार what is the EPF data? There is a lot of companies which we wouldn't even know about, which would have got created out of that.
Go up one slide. What was the other slide? This one?
So every time there is a buyback, around that time, how many new startups in the
100%.
Flipkart ecosystem happen? Within a year or two of that, you see a little bit of a spike. And again, these are representative numbers. These are all because iske alawa, a lot of unreported data will also be there.
But this is the financial freedom.
It's so true. It's not just financial freedom, Revant. आप सोचो ना Flipkart जैसी कंपनी में 2013, 14, 15 में अगर and you have seen people like Sachin and Vinny who are just older to you, middle class families, तुम्हारे जैसी हैं जिन्होंने कुछ किया and now they're billionaires. There's the DNA. You don't feel that way when you work for an Uday Kotak or for a Mukesh Ambani, but when you work for a Sachin, you will feel that कि मैं भी कर सकता हूँ यार ये.
This narrative should continue is all I'm saying. I think we don't want it to remain. See, a lot of this was Walmart buying out, then PhonePe split happening and stuff like that. So there's been again, it was a little spiky with the liquidity generation because of some transactions happening, right? At some point of time, 16 plus years, you want the company to become like an engine that can continue to run. So going back to what the first chart you showed, like an HDFC or a Tata Motors or a Bajaj Finance. Flipkart has that potential, right? As a conglomerate. See, it's a conglomerate today. At $40 billion, it's a conglomerate. And it has shared a lot of wealth. It's created significant impact on the startup industry. It's given us so many more founders. It's given us an entire multiplier effect for the entire ecosystem to sort of compound. I just think there's a lot more still available.
On that, यार 40 billion पे $25 billion का incremental all wealth creation हुआ है. Like on the Flipkart mafia, like their companies.
Wow.
Actually, we've spoken about like Indian companies, but Nvidia has created 150 crores. Like we know a guy who has 150 crores of Nvidia stock in Nvidia Hyderabad. Right. So like,
Wow.
there is all of that. Nvidia had a ESOP purchase program, ESPP. ये तो हमने ESOP की बात करी. Then ESPP भी होता है, RSU भी होता है, SARS भी होता है. Like there are many ways of.
Yeah.
Okay, वो accounted नहीं है. Nvidia, what it allowed you to do for the longest period is that instead of taking cash every quarter, you could decide कि यार अभी मुझे इतना cash चाहिए और इतना stock चाहिए. Every quarter you could buy in. Right.
Wow.
And obviously at whatever 4 trillion, I don't know what it is today, but at 4 trillion market cap, which is greater than the market cap of India or thereabouts, this is a like incredibly insane outcome. And by the way, like I just that they are still working there, like financial freedom plus हो गया, but they are still,
believe in the company's compounding.
yeah.
That my work is meaningful and will create value. But I think it takes, going back to Chirag's example, right? Like it takes real conviction in your own work, mission, as well as the company to do something like this, right? That I'll buy in some way. And I don't know, Chirag, if you've done it this year. So Sandeep, we do something similar. Every year when we do the appraisal, we can't do it every quarter. We give an option to people to buy in and say, flip your increment for stock. And there's a slight discount that I will offer to the EA because it's illiquid, right? There has to be an illiquidity discount as such. And it's 1 year vesting because that's the minimum that Companies Act demands, right? It's nice to see people leverage
बहुत ही
that.
अच्छा indicator हो जाता है, correct.
I think this is, so here 1 year vesting makes absolute sense, and I think like it's worth
You have to,
exploring.
na?
Even for us.
Cash आज दे रहे हो तो यार, you can't wait 4 years for that.
I think even for us, maybe I deserve something like this is relevant, right? कि at the end of 1 year, जो incentive आता है, उसको can you convert partly into ESOPs?
You should think about it. This is a very, like, me and Chirag can tell you
And
offline.
it works,
Yeah, it works well.
Yeah.
There is, I think, at least with senior people, there is clear alignment of incentives, targets.
Yeah.
Actually, the biggest advantage I've seen is, let's say you get an increment of 10 lakhs. वो 10 लाख में आपको हाथ में 6 लाख ही आने वाला है या 6.5 लाख आने वाला है.
Yeah.
Whereas वो जो 10 लाख है, if I give let's say a 25% discount also 1 year vested, so आपको 12.5 लाख का stock मिल रहा है, but आपको पूरा 12.5 मिल रहा है. So going
Sandeep, the
back
same
to your
example which you gave.
the post-tax one, people see this as a massive arbitrage because एंड में डिस्कशन वही होता है कि वो 10 लाख का मैं 6.5 लूंगा, फिर निफ्टी में डालूंगा, मैं 12% कमाऊंगा. बट अगर मैं 12.5 पे अगर मैं 25-30% कमा लूं और 25 तो मैं डिस्काउंट ही दे रहा हूं. सो इफ यू बिलीव इन योर वर्क एंड द कंपनी इन स्लाइट illiquidity, there is a massive upside that people have seen. And this I have now done it 3 years in a row. I am reducing the discount now because first couple of years though the discount was a little steeper. Phenomenal wealth creation. People have done 4x, 5x in like 2 years.
Yeah. I think
Plus because there is a buyback every year. Like the smartest person I've seen last year is they gave up the full increment, right? They had got it at a little deeper discount than what we have done this year. Share price went up. The buyback that was done this year, effectively he made 2x in 1 year.
So you're trading on Mosaic stock. And
see, like, I can't predict where the share price will go. I can't 100% assure
public markets where it is liquid ना, आप हर रोज देख सकते हो. Private market में क्या होता है, it's always lumpy.
Yeah.
So you get it now, 2 years out, will be a repricing event which will happen. So
how do you do this? Like अभी मेरा suppose 10 lakh का salary था, 10% increment, 1 lakh rupees, 1 lakh I forego buy stock. Next year मेरा salary increment का base क्या होता है? 10 लाख होता है, 11 लाख होता है?
11 लाख होता है.
11 लाख होता है. हाँ.
Has to be, no?
Either you can move to, let's say 12.1 lakhs, 10% over that the year after, or again you can buy in on stock.
Again you can buy. See, in the end, we have to be honest. If we show the employees that this is a cost to the company.
Yeah.
This is almost like cash. That is why I'm recording it in my P&L. I also have to be okay
Yeah.
to कि दोनों में कुछ भी चलेगा ना. So there was a debate, for example, saying कि अगर मैं 10 पे था और मैं 11 पे गया तो मेरा बेस 10 होना चाहिए. I'm like नहीं, वो जो 11 उसको instead of cash he got it through equity. It's the same. For me, it's left pocket, right pocket. Cash is cash. ESOP is cash. Cash is also cash. So I think I used to think that this will only be exercised by people who don't need immediate cash. But I have realized that there are very sharp people who do all the calculation and they're like, भाई ये कर लेते हैं करके. Especially when they know that there's a culture of buyback, there is some comfort. Like, by the way, this can't happen, Sandeep, if you don't again go back and show periodic buybacks. Because I don't want to be stuck for 5 years. Then you will have a very small pool of people doing this because they will effectively then say कि this is great, but I will be illiquid for 5 years. तो वो एक worry होता है. Like then only very few people who will say कि यार मेरे को 5 साल पैसा नहीं चाहिए तो ही मैं ये करूँ. So you understood, like you will not get a lot of buy-in on this unless you have again set the culture that this is almost liquid.
Yeah, I think one big part of CEO's life, I think, is to run the ESOP program. Like
100%.
I think this
100%.
is not an HR job. This is a CEO job. I think
It's a capital allocation job. Again,
It's a
go
capital
back, right?
allocation
It's
job.
100% capital allocation.
and
जो है ना हमारा L5 है sorry कि putting the goalpost and then aligning incentives. ये दो ही काम है मेजर कि goalpost सही होना चाहिए और फिर incentive alignment होना चाहिए.
How many buybacks have you done, Sandeep?
we have done 2, but all like coincidentally were linked to the round. You get what I mean?
Which is fine, but see,
It's coincidentally happened that we've had 2 rounds in this time, but maybe I think इसमें there should be like explicit communication. We will do it every year.
मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ, आप सोच लो. आई थिंक $1 million, $2 million ना आपका शेयर होल्डर भी को दिक्कत नहीं होगा अगर वर्स्ट केस आपको बैलेंस शीट यूज नहीं करना है ना. आफ्टर अ सर्टेन पॉइंट आई रियलाइज इंडिया में ना पोस्ट सीरीज सी liquidity is there if you're a good business, by the way. So see, I think, by the way, we didn't cover this one problem. There is a significant issue in valuations running up ahead of the business. Then you can't do buybacks because, and this has happened also a lot, right? Where people sitting on, so the rest and west that you were mentioning, no, Sandeep, is a big fundamental issue where people know this valuation is never going to come back. And we know enough and such companies which are overvalued because of whatever ZERP 2021, 2023. And everyone internally, not just the shareholder and the founder, like all management knows कि यार ये valuation अभी वापस आने नहीं वाला है. So then in their mind, they start writing off the value of the ESOP. I think this is something we didn't cover, but this is a big problem that has happened in the startup industry. You covered the Snapdeal and the Baiju issues, but I think there is a larger system where people don't believe that the value of their startups is real because they try to get the chatter around, right? Ki what is the real value? So going back again, doing a periodic buyback also makes the valuation real. Ki yaar, ye real value hai because somebody in the board, either because you're doing it through balance sheet or somebody is buying it, there is a person who's willing to pay this price. तो कुछ नहीं तो at least this is the fair price in the market.
Yeah.
Right? Versus all the, ET में ये valuation बोला था, ये, that's, all of that is signaling. But the real signal is when somebody is willing to pay a price for a secondary. That's, I'm assuming you've done public markets enough to know that there is a willing buyer at that price.
The funny part about buybacks is the moment you announce a buyback, there is no willing seller because at that point, it seems like a liquid position. The stock price is moving up. Why would you sell?
That's a good problem
That's a
to
good
have.
thing. It's a great thing. Like, so to your point, actual cash out को शायद कम होगा.
100%.
इसमें भी वो second order effect है संदीप कि आप बोलो आप देखना कि very few people will end up giving.
But Sandeep, this has been such a pleasure. Yash, I know I don't know you're hearing the call, but thank you so much for the research. And Sandeep, was such a pleasure. I know we met at the Matrix event, but such a pleasure to kind of to go deep with you. And I look forward to your book. And congratulations on everything at Dezerv.
It's a topic close to my heart, so it was amazing being here. Thanks a lot, Shantanu.